you neglected your financial stability. Because how do you quantify taking care of your children in the monetarily value? You've been married legally does not necessarily mean that everything that your husband has acquired in the process of him working belongs to you. You can be custodian of his property, but it does not necessarily mean that those property belongs to you if he has not left a will to indicate categorically that these properties belong to my wife. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So as we started this year, we are still having a money conversation. This year we decided to just have money conversations, okay? So this time I want to talk about money conversation from a perspective of when you're in a long-term relationship. So I have some notes here, so if you like this channel, please don't forget to like, subscribe and share. So my topic is money in relationship and why women experience financial setback once they get into the relationship. So we are socialized to be nurturers. So our main goal and our main focus is to nurture, to grow something, okay? So when you get into a relationship, that will be your focus. Your main focus is you take care of the home, you take care of the children, you take care of the household. That is, you are trained, you are sort of socialized to just think the biggest goal is for you to nurture and to take care whatever if you get into a long-term relationship, okay? So you're socialized to be chosen, to be loved, okay? So you set yourself in a way that you can be chosen by someone who will be your future husband, okay? So something else we are socialized to do, we are socialized to sacrifice, guys. So very few people know how not to sacrifice in relationship. Most of us were trained to, when you're in a relationship, especially marriage, guys. I'm going to talk about this in the context of marriage. If you're in a marriage, you're socialized to sacrifice. As a woman, you are supposed to sacrifice for the sake of your family, okay? So you are socialized to think that apart from what you have achieved, your main goal should be to be loved by someone or to be married by someone and to have a family. So you have achieved so much in your career, but you still feel like there's something missing, because the main socialization and the main idea is for you to be codependent on someone, okay? So even they ask you, why are you doing all these things? You should be having someone to do for you these things, okay? You are socialized to do these things, okay? And now you get into the marriage because you've been trained, you've been conditioned to think that being in a relationship or being in a marriage is be all whatever. It's the beginning and the end of your world as a woman, okay? One of the things that will happen is, number one, increased responsibilities, okay? So regardless if you get married to someone who is financially stable or someone who is taking care of you, there are things as a woman when you are in that relationship that you will just find yourself doing because it's a conditioning, okay? I don't know, guys. You know, when I talk about these things, I'm just hoping like someone can understand what I'm saying. Your condition, it just comes automatically for you to want to do all these things, because this is something that you have seen with your parent, or you've been told in any social gathering where you are intending to get married, like singles waiting for marriage. They condition you. So when you get in the relationship, your first idea is to nurture this family. So your responsibility will increase as a woman, okay? Let me tell you how it will increase. For you to be able to manage the household, now you're coming from singlehood, you're getting into a relationship, so your responsibility will increase automatically, because now the responsibility of the home lies on your shoulder. That means you are going to manage how people are going to be fed in that house. Like everything is running in like everything is running in order. There's a system running in that household. From when people wake up, they have breakfast, how their clothes are going to be washed, how there's gonna be lunch or dinner if people are going to be at home during lunchtime. You're going to manage your house manager or your nanny, whoever is in that house. So your responsibility as a woman will increase, okay? Something else that you don't factor in terms of responsibility now, because you've gone into a new family, and I say this, so when you get married in the African, I don't know if it's everywhere. In the African context, when you get married, your new family becomes also your responsibility. Your husband's family becomes your responsibility. Okay, so that's another responsibility, because if you go there and you see there's something that is missing, so it also becomes your responsibility, because you also want to ensure that the people who have become your new family are okay. Are we together? Okay, so something else you don't understand is, because you want your house to look cozy and welcoming, you're going to end up having to buy a lot of things for the household, like curtains, which cost $1 million, guys. Okay, so you're going to have to buy bed sheets, buy curtains, put on decors, make sure there is enough utensils, so that when you have guests, your guests are taken care of. So are you seeing? The more the responsibility, the more it requires of you to financially fund those things. Okay, something else people don't factor in is, when you get into the relationship, the food budget will increase. So if you're a one person household and then you get into a relationship, regardless if your spouse or your husband is contributing for the major items, like probably he does a shopping monthly, like you see, he goes and does the shopping monthly, as a woman, there are still things that you have to buy for you to cover the gap between what he has bought and what the household needs. I don't know if I make sense. So if your husband does the monthly shopping of buying the rice, buying the big items, but as a woman, there are still things that you find yourself buying, because for you to meet up and to ensure that the household is running. So you see, you cannot eat just rice without some vegetables. Or if your husband did the major shopping of buying rice and you want to cook, example, coconut rice, what will require of you for you to go back and buy the things that will require for you to make the rice to be the way you want it to be. I don't know if I make sense. So there's that responsibility of your food budget. Regardless if you're not the one who is contributing towards the food, there's still some things that you have to end up buying, so that you meet you complete the food, or for the food to be okay. Guys, I wish I had more words to say so that you can understand what I'm saying. Okay, so something else I want to talk about when it comes to financial setback as a woman is having children. It is important that you understand that you're in a relationship and you want to have children, because both of you can afford those children. And let me talk this in the context of a woman, guys. I don't know about the man perspective. Let me just talk about this from the woman's perspective. If you're a woman and your husband requires you to have children, are they financially stable, and do they have an insurance cover to cover you during the delivery process? Okay, and I'm not talking about just the delivery, because normal delivery is cheaper than C-section. Okay, so you might think that you're going to have your children a normal way, and then something happens and then you end up having a C-section. Okay, so it sets a woman financially backwards if you don't, or your spouse is not organized in that sense that they want children but they're not able to take care of the delivery process or even take care of the children. Let me give you an example, guys. I like to use my own example because I have experience. I have a few experiences of my own. Okay, so when I was having my last child, who is my fourth child, I was not sure I wanted to have a child, because I had already gone through a C-section previously with my third child. So the fourth child required that I should also go through a C-section. And you guys, you know right now that C-section is very, very expensive. Okay, so mine was coming to around 180,000 to have that child through a C-section. So I was not sure that I wanted to do this, because it meant that we had to be financially prepared for this delivery. Okay, but the person I was married to, my ex-husband, was very adamant that we should have this baby, the children are from God and all those things, which I don't know if the children come from God, everything will be taken care of. The blindness of thinking, how is the bills going to be paid, when you talk about these things from a facade or an illusion thing. Like, you have to have something to pay for that child to be delivered. Like, there's nothing like you wait until the last minute and then now you decide how you're going to pay for that delivery. Okay, so when I was having my last child, because I knew it was the delivery, I was very hesitant to have another child, because I knew this was gonna be very costly. and I had already had my third child with that employer that I was working for. So when you have another C-section, you're not covered for the second C-section with the same you're not covered with the same the second C-section with the insurance company that is under your employer. Okay, so it means you have to come out of pocket for that delivery. Okay, and so when I talk about this thing, I know because when I got the baby, and I thought probably this is something that we will organize prior to having that child, guess what happened? I was left with that bill of 180,000 for me to figure out how I'm going to pay that. Okay, because again, you see, if you're employed, and my employer was very gracious enough to, you can have the baby and then pay in installment until you finish. Can you imagine? Someone wants a child, but they are not able to take care of that child, or they're not able to take care of that delivery, and they leave you with that bill for you to take care of. And let me tell you guys, as I speak about my own experiences, I know of so many people who ended up paying for their own hospital bill because the husband wanted a child, but he did not have the funds to ensure that you deliver in a good hospital, in a decent hospital, because delivering a child is close to death, by the way, you guys. It's not an easy thing. It can cost your life. Okay, so you want to go to a good hospital, you want to have a very good doctor, or else it's gonna cost you your life. So when you decide to have a child with someone, they have to show evidence of they will take care of you, in that sense of when you have this child, are they able to cover your delivery cost? Or else you have to go back to your pocket and remove money and cover for your own delivery. Okay, something to note. Okay, something else, guys, I want to talk about is that if you see now, if you have a child, you don't know the outcome of what is going to happen when you have this child. So sometimes, in most cases, the few years of a child's life are very demanding. The child becomes sickly, or you have a problem with the house help, or house manager, or the nanny who's going to be left with your child once you go back to work after 3 months. So what happens? I have seen women having to quit their job because they cannot continue going to work when their child is sickly. Like if your child is a bit sickly, so you end up sacrificing yourself so that you can be able to take care of your child. So it means your income, you do no longer have an income moving forward until that child comes to an age where you can be able to go back to work. Financially, you're set back. Every time you have a child and the baby gets sick, the person who normally doesn't go to work is the mother of the child. Pregnancy also, people don't understand. When you're going through the pregnancy, sometimes pregnancy can be so brutal. Like you end up getting high blood pressure during pregnancy, or you get preeclampsia. So you sometimes you end up taking unpaid leave to be at home so that you can be able to nurture the pregnancy until term. Okay, so every time you enter into a long-term relationship and you have to have a child, these are the consequences people don't talk about that are going to affect you financially. Because if you decide, if for example, imagine you are at the peak of your career, then you get married, then you have a child, and then these things happen, you end up having high blood pressure, and you have to stay home. What does that mean for you? You can only be covered a few sick days by your employer. The rest of the time you take unpaid leave for you to be able to continue nurturing that child until the child is born. Okay, yeah, so it sets you financially backwards because it will take you a few years. Okay, and something else people don't talk about more often is that when you get the child, or when you have your baby and you have to go back to work, you sort of don't perform as you used to perform when you did not have a child, because you're breastfeeding, you're thinking about is my child fed, you're thinking about the person I left with my child, is the person I left with my child taking care of my child the way I told them to do? Is my child fed? So the productivity of a woman in terms of being employed goes down. And even most people during that employment, during that time when you're having a child, most people actually end up losing their job because you are coming in late. If you slept late because your child was crying the whole night, it means that you wake up late, you get to work late. When you're at work, you keep calling back home to just to see if the child is doing well. If your child is sick, you cannot perform as you were performing before. So somehow your career is affected when you have the child. When I say women get financially set back, is that when now you as a woman take up a huge role of ensuring your household is running, everything is your house is cozy, your children are taken care of, your nannies or your house managers are taken care of, your what your husband is doing well, what happens is that as you as a woman take the front line in your household, your career and your financial stability declines, whilst for the man the financial stability increases, because now you become the frontliner in this battle. So in most cases the man will thrive financially than the woman once you get into a long-term relationship, just because of the responsibilities now that you have to shoulder as a person. What happens, what I've seen happening is that women now start neglecting themselves, because there's so much responsibility at home that you neglect yourself. You never go, if you're doing your nails, you no longer go to do your nails, you don't do your hair, you don't do your makeup, because you always rush to make sure this is done at home, this is done in the office. So you end up neglecting yourself. When you neglect yourself, your self-esteem goes down. Yeah, you meet women who are doing very well, they were very confident, they were dressing up nicely, then they get married, and then after a few years you meet up with them, you're wondering what happened. Is because of the responsibility that was upon them. And when you're talking about those responsibility that requires you to financially chip in, it means in most cases that you end up not you having to sacrifice, to choose between making your nails or ensuring that your child has warm clothes. So you end up doing that for the child and you neglect yourself. So something else I've also noted is in the when you decide to quit your job to stay home with your children, what happens is that now there's a possibility that the communication between you and your spouse might decline or non-existent, because now you can imagine you're staying home with the children the whole day, so your only language that you're gonna have is to talk with the kids, and your husband is going to work. So when he comes home, you don't have anything to talk about, because he either has to talk about work or you have to talk about the kids. So the things that probably brought you together will be affected. Anything to do with money has to come from a conversation. And when you don't have the communication between you and your spouse, it means you don't even have the money conversation, because he comes home when he's tired, you're home the whole day running after the kids, so there's no communication. So it's, in most cases, you end up not having any money conversation. So he pays for the whatever expenses he has to pay for, and you take care of the children that you have to take care of. So you end up not having any understanding what he's doing behind the scenes. Like now your husband goes to work, he takes maybe a loan to buy something, you don't know, because you never have that conversation. I have seen where a husband has now the husband is growing in terms of increased responsibility at work, increased promotion, so he gets more money, but because you don't have a conversation, you see him thriving, because you don't have the money conversation, he ends up doing things without you knowing. Okay, so he might decide to wake up and buy a car, which you don't know, because you don't have any money conversations. This is a very detrimental thing for you as a woman, because when your husband decides to buy a car and you're not aware about him buying the car, I'm using a car as an example, he might end up buying land, buying a car, but because you don't have any money conversation, now see, the person who is left out of that investment is you, because he will go buy a car and the car will be under his name, because he's the one who bought. If you bought the car with the loan, the logbook will be under his name. Something else to note is that when you stay home to take care of the family, and he goes to work and he's contributing towards the retirement, you're not contributing towards your retirement. It means your retirement contribution has come to a halt as you take care of your family, as you put your children as a priority or your family as a priority. Okay, so if something happens, there's a possibility, if not 90% of women leave relationship without anything, as you are busy taking the front line, as you're busy taking care of your family and ensuring your family is doing well, you neglected your financial stability, and if anything happens, we end up being on the losing end. Because how do you quantify taking care of your children in the monetarily value? If your husband was contributing towards his retirement, he was buying property, his property. Now let me tell you something I learned. You see, we assume because I'm married to you, we assume that we are socialized to understand that if you get married to a person legally, that whatever property he acquires in the process, in the course of the marriage, belongs to you. No, 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 guys. No, 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 no. Guys, you can be custodian of his property, but it does not necessarily mean that those property belongs to you. People can contest in the court of law so that you end up losing everything, regardless if you were sacrificing behind the scene, you were taking care of your children behind the scene. Your financial life can be affected greatly in case of a loss in terms of your spouse. Okay, just because you have certificate of you've been married legally does not necessarily mean that everything that your husband has acquired in the process of him working belongs to you. If he has not left a will to indicate categorically that these properties belong to my wife, or my or you're under the property's name. Something else to note is that if he acquires the property and he puts it under 50-50, 50-50, like you owe 50%, he owes 50%. Now, what you also don't understand is that in case of anything, his 50% can be contested, so that it can go to his brothers, it can go to his whatever family, because it only means that the 50% is what belongs to you. The other 50% does not necessarily belong to you. I don't know if you understand. Ladies, guys, please do your due diligence when you're just neglecting your financial life in a relationship. You think our husband is doing well. You and who's the husband? You're supposed to take care. Whatever money is not in your account, whatever property is not under your name, is not yours. Is not your property, as we were socialized or conditioned to think. Okay, that if my husband is doing well, we are taken care of. No. If the things are under 50-50, please just inquire more. What does that mean for you? Okay, and if the properties are under your husband's name, they can be contested and you can be left outside with your children with nothing. Okay, if he did not leave a will to protect you as a woman. So be very serious about your financial don't be, you see what something I've come to realize, once we get in a long-term relationship or we get into a marriage, even if you're a smart woman, something, I don't know, something, you stop questioning. Even if you are a lawyer and you know these things can affect you, and you stop questioning these things, you stop questioning, how am I protected in this relationship if I decide to leave my job? If I decide to leave my job, how are you going to help me contribute towards my retirement when I'm at home taking care of our children? Okay, how are you, when you acquire property, how is that property, do I know that you have acquired property? Do I know that you have acquired a car? Is this car under our name or is it under your name? Question, please, guys. Don't seem stupid when you get into the marriage. Don't be people who don't question, because I will tell you for sure, if you don't question and you assume all these things, it will come to bite you later. And because let me tell you guys, there's no guarantee that you're going to be in that relationship or that marriage for the rest of your life. Okay? But now, whatever you sacrifice, whatever you did behind the scene is not quantifiable enough for you to start saying, I sacrifice not going to work to take care of you guys, so I deserve to be paid. If you did not enforce that thing in the relationship at that particular moment. So demand some things to be put on the table. Have communication about how is our money situation. Okay? When I'm not working, how do I protect myself financially? Yeah? How do I protect myself financially if I decide to stay home with my kids, with our kids? If I decide to take care of our home, we were socialized to think as long as your husband is paying rent and taking care of your school fee, of the kids' school fees, and is taking care of the home, you as a person, you as an individual, you should not be questioning how you are taken care of. You see, your spouse taking care of the children that you've had in that relationship does not necessarily mean that he's taking care of you. No. We have seen cases where children come later to contest for the property that was left to the mother, because it was not necessarily indicated. There was no will to defend the mother that this property that we acquired belonged to this woman that I was married to. Okay, so the children will benefit out of the parents' goodwill to forward the property to the kids. But if at any given moment, if the properties were left and there was no will, the kids can come and contest for their father's property. So it means you end up losing, even if you spend 50 years, 10 years raising those children, and now they are grown up, they want the property or their father's property, and now you're left here begging. Okay, so you have to be serious about your financial life. As a woman, protect your financial life. Be away, like, be awakened, be understand things. You're not just getting married. You know, ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance will cost your financial life. It's such a great setback as a woman to start from scratch when you're in your 40s or when you're in your 50s. Okay, so guys, what I'm trying to say essentially, that when you get into the purpose of this video is to say, when you get into a long-term relationship, it does not exempt you from understanding money aspect in the relationship. The learning about money, how you protect yourself as a woman in that relationship, has to be something that you put at the back of your mind. To be ignorant in the relationship and to think that, oh, because my husband is doing, I'm also taken care of, is being ignorant, and it will cost you if anything was to happen in that relationship. Okay, and even let me tell you, I keep saying this. In fact, if you're married to someone who is a good guy or someone who is a good husband, as people tend to say, if your spouse wants to take care of you financially, they will have this discussion with you and tell you, how can we contribute towards your retirement as you take care of the kids, or when you're not going home? How can we ensure that in case of anything that I protect you? Okay, so this thing of, because you assume that this person has the best interest at heart for you, that they will take care of you automatically. We have stories after stories, guys. You are not going to be the first, you're not going to be the last person to be an example to other women of what can happen to you if you do not take care of your financial life. And for that, I will see you on the next one. Bye. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you on the next one.